Hi guys, welcome back to C++ lecture 11 with Junior. Alright, on this lecture now we are emphasizing the idea of arrays. Alright, in C++ we are having a way of storing a related data in our memory, and then that way is called array. We can have an array where we store array of data. Alright, so we are having two types of array. We are having 1D array and 2D array, simply meaning one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. Alright, and then now what is an array and what is array used for? Okay, here's an explanation here. An array store related data in order. Right, an array is used to store a related data in a good order, in order. Alright, that is data of the same type. When I say related data, I mean data of the same type. Alright, it might be your integers. You store integers in a given order, meaning in a certain sequence. When I say order, I'm talking about a sequence. Alright, one after the other. Alright, now I'm explaining one-dimensional array. Right, one-dimensional arrays, declaration of one-dimensional array variable. Alright, this is an example. Maybe the declaration is still the same as the old style. Right, you may have int. Assume that we're declaring an integer array, then with a name called max. So here we're having int max, and then we have this square brackets, and then we're having an index within that. We're having a value within, and then now we terminate, and then now we come to the next one. We might have a float, and then float wages, and then we're having angular. Remember, mind you, that this square brackets marks that this is an array. Wherever you see a declaration and you see these things, you know that this is an array and is one-dimensional array. Alright, okay, and then now we come here on wage, and then we're having this, and then the index also, and then we have 4 as an index. Remember, index might be any value. It might be not be 4, it might be many. Alright, so you might even have declaration of a character, now say letters, and then with the square brackets, but then without an index. Right, so when we have an array that is being declared without an index, it then means when on the declaration it has been declared, but it has not been specified the number of items that will be stored inside that array. Alright, so but then here it then means that we are going to store how many items in that array? We are going to store 4 items in that array. Same applies to here. But then when you are having we're having a square brackets without an index in between, that means they have not yet specified that they are going to store a certain number of items within that array named letter, for example here. Alright, and then now this one now here, it has no index, but it has an initialization. This is how you initialize your array. We say it's a character, so we are initializing it with this parenthesis, and then within the parenthesis you see there is a data. What kind of a data? This is a character data. So we are having character M, character A, character W, and character V. Now let's count how many data are we going to, how many data here do we, how many data we have. Alright, how many data we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now the size of our array, is it correct to be 4 or should it be 3? Okay, now here is a tip. We're going to answer that on our here on our notes. Alright, here when we have our NB, we're going to answer it. So here we're having what data? We assume that you're having, if we're counting mathematically, we count when we're counting natural numbers, we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, but then now there's a different way of counting in array, so I don't want to explain it now here. Alright, and then now that counting that we are going to follow in array, as much as this was not specified the number of items to be stored within, once you are initializing it to the certain size of data, number of items, remember these are number of items 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, And then now we know in counting they were 4, and then here we're not having any size specified. So once the data here they are 4, it then means by default this will be what? 4. It will store 4, nothing more. All right, so now let's go to our note. We say solving a one-dimensional array problem is much better to use one for loop to move from each element in your array. All right, remember they'll be stored in a certain in a good sequence, one after the other. So for you to move from like this one to this one, you need a for loop. You'll increase from here to here, you'll increase from here to here, you'll increase from here to here. So a one for loop will work for a one-dimensional array. All right, so now what else to emphasize? Now what to note? A value between the square brackets, between these, specify the number of items to be stored in that array variable. Like here we have wages, and then we have the value 4. It then means how many items you're going to store? 4 items in that variable named wage, which is an array variable of data type float. All right, e.g. you might have a string names, the variable is names, and then we know the data type is a string, and then it's having size 6. It then means the size is what? Is 6. The number of items to be stored are 6. This simply means that the variable names, all right, is going to store 6 strings or less. You see, so if we have 6, like if we specify the size, that the size of an array is what? Is 6. It then means it can store up to 6 or less, not explicitly saying that 6 only. No, you can store less but not more. Mind you, we're talking about computer memory. Imagine if you're just for an example, if you're having a house that has 6 bedrooms, and then now if you're having a house that has 6 bedrooms, you know that you will never, your house is limited to, assume that in one bedroom only one person is allowed to sleep in one bedroom. It then means since you are having 6 bedrooms, you will never come to a case where you find 7 people slept in within those 6 bedrooms, because we assume that each bedroom one person can sleep in each bedroom. As long as there are 6, it then means you are expecting to have 6 people inside that house or less. So if you have 2 people, yes, they will still sleep on the 2 bedrooms, and then the other 4 will just be there without no use. That's why on the idea of our array, if we have 6 here, it simply means that you can store 6 items or less but not more, right? Okay, another thing to note, when counting the number of items in an array, we start counting at 0, our index now. Remember here I was counting using natural number. Now here we're going to count starting our array index start at 0. All right, you can start at, we will always start at 0, 1, 2, 3 continually, right? So now here explaining here, now I'm coming back here to explain here, because I said to you let me not explain it now. Remember the size was not specified, and then here but we're having a data that is initialized to that variable, and then now you see is a list of data. All right, so it then means now let's count our data. How many? This is 0, 1, 2, 3. You see there are 4, but we start at 0. Set 0, 1, 2, 3. You see 0, 1, 2, 3. Now when you raise your finger, you realize you're having what? You're having 4. Naturally you're having 4. It then means the size here is what? Is 4. And once that data gave you the size, that array will continually use that size. It will never increase or decrease. Like here we know we're having 4. It then means here in our index we are going to have what? 0, 1, 2, 3. In our index here we're going to write what? We are going to write 3. Alright, our index here is simply 3 because we are starting at 0. Alright, so for this one where index is 4, it then means you are going to have what? Where we are supposed to have how many items? Let's start 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It then means it's what? 5 items. Same applies to this one, 5 items. So these items were 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, which are 4 when you count naturally. So it then means here we're going to have, in terms of array, we're going to write 3 because you start at 0. So that's what I wanted to emphasize to you guys. All right, array, when we count, we always start at 0. Positions are starting at 0. We don't start counting 1 2 3 like that, naturally like that. No, we start at 0. So it then means we go 1 unit backward with 0, start at 0. All right, so as always, I have an example here, all right, that I'm going to emphasize in coding, especially emphasize the idea of one of these things. A one-dimensional array problem is much better to be solved using one for loop to move from each element in your array. All right, so here's the question: write a program that store marks for 4 tests of a student in an array named marks and display the average. So here the problem, we can read the question again. We are going to write a program that store the marks of a student, 4 marks, marks for 4 tests, the marks for 4 tests of a student in an array named marks, and then you're going to display their average. We know how to calculate average, guys. We all know that, right? So if you don't know, you'll see that in the coding. The marks are user input. All right, so let's go to our code block here again. Then now create a new project, empty file, and then say file as. Then now we specify, oh, what are we doing? It's an array, one-dimensional array, 1D array, 1D array.cpp, C++. All right, let me include the derivative. Include your IO stream. All right, using namespace standard. Then now just go in our main. All right. Oh, sorry, once I open it also closes for me. Then I can always return 0 below. This is below. Going up and then, all right, they say what marks are user input, right? So assume now, because we're going to do the average, what kind of a data can we give the marks? So you say any percentage where someone might have like the marks where someone might have 59.5, or let's just assume now we're dealing with we're using our marks as float with precisions maybe. Or okay, let's just save our marks as integers. Int marks, and then now we say is an array, right? And then now we say marks, how many marks? Let's again go to our question. You say how many, for how many? 4 tests. Marks for how many? 4. It then means now here we're going to have what? Going to have 3. Remember the idea, we start at 0 1 2 3, so it's 4. All right, then now the size of an array is 3. all right, so now it then means let's address the user again nicely, guys, as always. All right, sorry, please enter the mark for the first test, and then you can have it, dig it, and then now the mark for the first test. All right, so now here is a nice idea. I talked about the for loop now. Okay, so now they will enter the marks for the first test. All right, so now assume we just say C in here, then we see in, now we say mark. Okay, marks, and then now is an array. All right, now you see, now the challenging part is that if I just have this, now I say C in, and then now I say mark. Remember this 3 here, it specify the size, so where will that mark be stored? You see, at which position will that mark that is entered be stored? So for me to be able to point those positions, it then means wherever that they are going to input, I must have an index pointer to those positions. It then means here on top, that's where I must have that for loop for int It might be confusing, but you'll follow me. In I is assigned to, and then now it's initialized to 0, that for loop. And then now how many position, the condition can be what? I must be less or equals to how many positions? Less or equals to 3. All right, that's the condition. Now I'll keep doing what? I'll increase my I, isn't it? I'll keep moving the positions. All right, so I open my for loop. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me just tap them. All right, so you see now, guys, I have a for loop. I decided that we're going to enter the for loop, and then you're going to ask the person to enter, please enter the mark for the first test. And then now when they are going to enter the mark for the first test, and then now here, how will I point the first test? Remember, I is what? Is 0. The index here is going to be I is 0, is going to run till at I is greater than 4, greater than 3, sorry. So now remember, guys, I explained the for loop. We'll keep repeating, this is a repetition, we keep repeating, requesting the marks as much as this is true, as much as I is less than 3. So now here then means I can say the index where I'm going to store the mark is going to be at I, the first one. All right, and then now after doing that, because now at the end we'll need to do the average, it then means I must keep adding the marks. All right, so as much as I'm going to keep adding the marks, how will I now where will I store the marks as I'm adding them? It then means I need another variable here. All right, int total mark, okay, in total mark, and it's also an array. All right, in total mark. Then I don't specify the size, is okay. All right, okay, let me just, okay, in total mark. All right, it's not an, let me just have it without not giving it as an array. It's just a normal integer variable. Okay, so now here, now as much as the marks are entered, then I'm going to say total mark, and then plus equals to, remember this is simply plus equals to, I suppose you guys know it, but let me just stick to the basics, right, not to confuse someone. Total marks is assigned to marks, at that index plus marks at that index plus. All right, oh, so sorry, this is not correct. It's assigned to total mark. All right, total mark is assigned to total plus marks at that index. All right, so now after that, so I'm going to, okay, now as much as the program will first say please enter marks for the first test, so maybe let's be more fancy here for the, let me close here. For test, let me say for test. All right, for test, now I'm going to display I here, and then I'm going to say I plus 1. taking time. Yes. For test 1. Alright, good. Now please enter marks for test, and then it's going to say I plus 1. I is what is 0, so it's going to be I plus 1 for the first time, and then it's going to be 0. Then now the user is going to know that they are entering the first mark. And then now, as much as we are totaling here, total is assigned to total mark plus mark at I. And then this will keep the record of the total, and then outside the for loop, that's where now we can do the average. Alright, and then we can say C out. Do we have to actually declare an average and then now calculate it on? I think it will be better. Okay, average has to be a float average assigned to 0.0 initialize. Sorry, so this is the declaration. I declare the marks, I declare the total to store the total. Now I'm declaring the average. So here I'm going to say average is assigned to, so the average now is going to take the total the total which is total marks, and then now I'm going to divide by how many tests. Then we know we're having how many tests? We're having 4 tests. Alright, so we're having 4 tests. So now after that I can say C out. I'm displaying what? And say the average is, then now here I'm displaying the average. Alright, so here I'm displaying the average. Simple as that. So this is our program. Let's analyze it first before I build and run the program. All right, we request guys here write a program. Write a program that store marks for 4 tests, all right, of a student in an array named marks, and display the average. Okay, so here now I told you guys the idea of having a one-dimensional array. Now it's good idea to have a for loop, a one for loop. So I have a for loop here, and then within the for loop now I said I start at I, and I initialize I to 0, and then now the condition say I must be less or equals to 3. All right, and then I will keep increasing the I. So within the for loop I say please enter the marks for test, and then now here what is going to be displayed after that? It's going to say I, which is 0. 0 plus 1 is what is 1. It's going to be saying test 1, and then now they're going to enter, and then it's going to take that mark and then say that mark which has been entered to the position. What is I? Position I is 0 so far. I is 0. So when you enter that mark is at I currently is what is 0. Okay, so I is 0, and then now here it's going to be stored at that position 0, and then what's next? That mark plus the total was 0, so it then means that the mark that is entered now is associated as total. And then now I hit here, and then I go up, I increase the I plus 1. Y was 0, and then I plus 1. Now I'm going to say I plus 1 is 1, and now I'm going to have 0 plus 1 is 1. Is 1 less than 3? Less or equals to 3? Yes. And then it's going to come inside and say please enter the marks for test, and then it's going to say what is that I? It was 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, so 2 is displayed, and then when you enter, that is going to be stored at I, which is 1, and then continually. So we're moving from the next position and then adding them. As we are moving, we're adding them, and then now after that till where we stop at okay, let's continue. I now when we increase I is going to be what? 2. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. And then now it goes inside, it's going to display I plus 2 plus 1 is 3. Please enter mark for test 3, and then it comes here mark at index. What is I was 2. I was 2, and then it's stored at position 2, and then it say it added to the total mark. All right, then it comes here, they increase, and then I is I plus plus, and then I 2 plus 1 is 3. So is 3 less or equals to 3? Is equals to 3. So it again is true. It comes inside. Please enter the mark for test, and then it's going to say 3 plus 1 is 4, test 4, and then that is at I3, position 3, and then now it's adding it to the total, and then now when it comes here, it hits here again, it go up, increase the I is 4. Is 4 less than 3? Nope, it's false, so it doesn't enter the for loop. It comes here on line 18, and then now that's where it calculates the average, because it has the total from inside the for loop, and then it's going to say total divided by 4, and then now that's your average. Then we display the average. Your average is, then now here just say average, display the average. All right, then that's it. Okay, let me go and build the program. It must be tricky, but then all right, you see, please enter the mark for test 1. So okay, let me close this and make it nicely for test 1, and then end line so that everything else can be in the new line. Test 1. All right, let's build it and run it. You see, please enter the mark for test 1. So okay, let me enter the mark 67. Please enter the mark for test, you see, please enter the mark for test 2. So now I'll say 87. Please enter the mark for the third test, so I'll say 78, 76, and then please enter the mark for test 4. So test 4 got 90. You see, the average is 80. All right, I suppose this is the correct answer. The average is 80. So you can go and try, run the program, and then run the program and see if it's doing the correct logic. So here guys, I was emphasizing the idea of an array. So all the marks here that have been entered, they need to be associated with an index. This index, it marks where we are going to store. All right, where we are going to store. So now let me go to, I created, I opened a Word document, and then now here to show you the picture of how the array works. So this is one-dimensional array, guys. All right, so here is an index, and then on our index I was having int, for the for loop I was having int I. All right, int I, and then I initialize it to 0. This is where I was starting, right? The position, you see, these are position for this storage, position for this storage, position for this storage, position for this storage, continually. So the position are our index, which is I, and then start at 0. So at 0, the name of the, this is the name of an array. Our array on our code is what? Is marks. All right, is marks. All right, guys, and then now marks at, now the marks is going to take our index I. All right, so now at this position, for the first time I entered a value. When you enter that value, I suppose I enter a value. When you enter that value is here. All right, and then now the program go to the for loop. It increased the I. The position it was I was 0, so at 0 I enter 78, and then now the for loop increase I to 1, and then I move. Now position is 1. At 1 I enter a value again. All right, you enter a value, that's where it's stored, and then now the for loop increase the I. It's going to be I plus 1, it's going to be 2. Then we enter a value here. We enter a value here. All right, and then continually the for loop will keep increasing the position till the last position that was required. So in our case, the last position was, this one was 4. So let me enter the value here again, and then now in our program we finished at position, we finished at position what? We finished at position 3, which is number 4. You can see if you are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, if you are counting naturally, but when you are counting in terms of array, is 0, position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3. That's where we finished. So after we finished, our program was able to add all these as we were running the code. So this is the picture of one-dimensional array. You are storing related data, which is, this data is what, when I say related, is all integers in a single storage divided by position. The storage is what is marks divided by positions, because it's an array. All right, so this is the idea of a one-dimensional array. So right guys, so this is all I have for one-dimensional array, guys. And then now our next tutorial will be looking into a two-dimensional array. Alright guys, I hope you guys find this video educational, and please don't forget to subscribe. Alright, from me, Junior, bye for now.